At exactly 4:17 a.m., the jungle went silent. No insects, no birds, no wind. That silence was how you knew someone was trying to escape. In Southeast Asia's most feared prison, silence was louder than gunfire. The guards froze. The inmates held their breath. And somewhere beyond the razor wire, the jungle waited, hungry, patient, undefeated. This prison had no official name outsiders remembered. Locals called it Ban Khao, the mountain that swallows men. What happened inside never reached the news. What happened to those who tried to leave became legend. This is an insider story no one was meant to tell. Ban Khao prison was built where maps turn vague. A granite ridge surrounded by triple canopy jungle, accessible only by a single dirt road that washed away every rainy season. Helicopters avoided it. Radios barely worked. The government said isolation was for security. Guards knew the truth. It was for forgetting. Prisoners sent here weren't meant to return. Political dissidents, warlords, smugglers who knew too much, men whose names created problems. Once processed through the Iron Gate, Ban Khao became their entire universe. Stone walls, rusted towers, and a jungle so dense it erased direction itself. The prison wasn't large, but it didn't need to be. 2 cell blocks, 1 yard, 4 watchtowers, and beyond them, hundreds of kilometers of hostile terrain. The jungle was the real warden. Snakes nested under walkways. Leeches dropped from trees during roll call. Guards didn't remove them. It taught discipline. The humidity corroded metal, rotted uniforms, ate paper records. Prisoners memorized everything, rules, schedules, guard habits, because writing things down meant losing them. At Ban Khao, survival required adaptation. Those who couldn't adapt didn't last long enough to attempt escape. I arrived as a junior guard, 22 years old, believing the uniform meant authority. I was wrong. Authority belonged to the jungle and the men who understood it. Veterans didn't shout. They watched. They listened. They smelled the air like hunters. If you feel confident here, my supervisor told me, you're already dead. Guards trained differently at Ban Khao. No parade drills. No polished boots. We learned how to walk without sound, how to sleep lightly, how to recognize fear disguised as calm. The prison didn't break guards. It selected them. Escape attempts were rare, but not because of the walls. Every prisoner knew the walls were the easiest part. Cutting wire took minutes. Distracting a tired guard took seconds. The jungle beyond took lives. In training, we studied escape stories not as failures, but as warnings. We memorized where bodies were found, or weren't. Some men vanished without trace. No screams, no remains, just absence. The jungle doesn't kill quickly. It waits. Hunger, infection, disorientation. At Ban Khao, escape wasn't about courage. It was about arrogance. The first escape I witnessed began with patience. His name was Sam Chai, a former ranger turned smuggler. He watched guards for months, learned routines, learned personalities, learned which of us still believed rules mattered. On a moonless night, during a storm that drowned sound, he slipped past the perimeter. No alarms, no chase. By morning, his cell was empty. Command called impossible. Veterans didn't. We marked the date and waited. 7 days later, his boots were found near a ravine. No body, no blood, just boots neatly placed facing the jungle. Guard culture at Ban Khao was built on restraint. You didn't punish emotionally. You didn't threaten. You didn't boast. Prisoners sense weakness like animals sense injury. New guards who tried intimidation were reassigned. Or worse, respect was currency. Quiet authority kept order. We ate the same rice as inmates, drank the same water, suffered the same heat. That equality wasn't kindness. It was strategy. At Ban Khao, separation created resentment. Familiarity created control. Guards and inmates shared one understanding. No one truly owned this place. We were all temporary guests in something older and stronger. The most dangerous prisoners weren't violent. They were calm. Men who spoke softly and watched everything. They didn't rush escape. They prepared. One group spent months pretending to be sick, weak, broken. Guards relaxed. Then one night, 3 men vanished simultaneously. That was the most frightening part. Not the escape, but the coordination. We followed protocol. Sealed gates. Counted heads. By sunrise, command helicopters arrived, furious and afraid. But veterans already knew. 3 men entering the jungle together had better odds than 1. Still, none of us expected what we found. 2 weeks later, we discovered the first body. Dehydrated, barefoot, covered in infected cuts. He'd walked in circles until exhaustion ended it. The second was found months later near a river, trapped between currents and cliffs. The third was never found. That haunted us. 1 success out of 3 was still success. Guard doctrine changed overnight. Patrols expanded. Watch schedules tightened. But the jungle didn't care about doctrine. It rewarded understanding. And that third man proved something dangerous. That band cow was not inescapable, just unforgiving. After that, the prison felt different. Tense. Alert. Guards stopped underestimating inmates. Inmates stopped underestimating guards. A quiet war of observation replaced routine. Every movement meant something. Every silence mattered. The jungle listened. That's when the mountain escape happened. The only attempt that nearly embarrassed the entire system. He was called Arun, a former surveyor who understood terrain better than people. He didn't run into the jungle. He climbed straight up the mountain, using forgotten maintenance paths and natural rock fractures. Where the jungle killed, stone tested endurance. Arun prepared his body for years. Reduced food intake, increased flexibility, learned how guards thought by listening, not asking. On the night he moved, fog covered the ridgeline. From the towers, visibility dropped to meters. He didn't break wire. He didn't rush. He climbed past us while we looked outward. For 3 days, nothing. On the 4th, a patrol spotted smoke on a cliffside impossible to reach. We found him alive but broken. Frostbite, fractures, starving. He'd survived the jungle by avoiding it entirely. The mountain had nearly let him go. Arun didn't resist when captured. He just smiled and said, "I wanted to see if it was possible." That answer changed guard psychology forever. Escape wasn't about freedom. It was about proof. Men didn't try to leave Ban Cow because they believed they could succeed. They tried because they needed to test the prison's claim of inevitability. Guards learned something too. Our job wasn't to stop escape. It was to make prisoners believe escape wasn't worth the cost. Fear wasn't enforced through violence. It was enforced through examples. Discipline at Ban Cow was ritualized. Roll call at dawn. Silence after dark. No exceptions. Not because of rules, but because chaos attracted attention from prisoners and the jungle alike. Guards learned to read inmates like weather patterns. Agitation meant plotting. Calm meant danger. The most experienced guards trusted instinct over reports. Paper meant nothing in humidity. Memory meant everything. Veterans could tell something was wrong by how birds reacted near the fence. That level of awareness didn't come from training manuals. It came from years of shared exposure to an environment that punished ignorance. Punishment was subtle. Isolation cells weren't dark, they were loud. Near waterfalls, near insect nests, men begged to return to general population. Physical punishment was rare and frowned upon. Broken prisoners were unpredictable. Controlled prisoners were manageable. Guards understood psychology better than force. We rotated posts constantly, so familiarity didn't turn into sympathy. No guard stayed long enough to grow careless. Burnout was common. Transfers were requested quietly. Ban Cow didn't need brutality to maintain order. The jungle provided the reminder of consequences every morning when fog lifted off the trees. There was one escape attempt we never reported. Not officially. A young inmate slipped out during supply delivery. No alarms. No witnesses. By protocol, we should have declared an incident. Instead, the senior guard walked into the jungle alone and returned hours later with the man alive. He'd collapsed less than a kilometer from the fence. The senior guard said nothing. The inmate was returned without punishment. That silence was intentional. Sometimes mercy was strategy. Letting one man see the jungle and survive ensured everyone else believed the stories. Guards didn't see themselves as villains. Most came from nearby provinces. We understood the jungle the way fishermen understand tides. That familiarity shaped culture. Younger guards learned quickly or left. Those who stayed developed an identity. Part soldier, part warden, part survivor. The uniform mattered less than reputation. Prisoners respected guards who treated the environment seriously. Those who mocked the jungle didn't last. Death didn't discriminate between inmate and guard. 2 guards died during my tenure. Accidents, officially. The jungle doesn't file reports. Over time, Ban Cow gained a rhythm. Escape attempts followed patterns. Rainy season meant fewer attempts. Dry season meant more desperation. Political prisoners studied ideology. Criminals studied terrain. The most dangerous inmates were thinkers. They asked questions indirectly, watched supply routes, learned weather cycles. Guards responded by becoming unpredictable. Schedule changes, random patrols, false routines. Psychological chess played under a canopy that erased certainty. Outsiders believed Ban Cow relied on brutality. In reality, it relied on uncertainty. No one ever felt fully prepared, on either side. When I left Ban Cow, I didn't feel relief. I felt smaller. Cities felt loud, artificial, controlled. At Ban Cow, everything mattered. Every step, every sound, every decision had consequences. I realized the prison wasn't dangerous because of walls or weapons. It was dangerous because it removed illusions. Escape stories weren't warnings. They were lessons. The jungle didn't hate prisoners. It didn't hate guards. It tested everyone equally. Those who misunderstood that difference didn't survive long enough to tell stories. Years later, I heard rumors that Ban Cow was being modernized. Cameras, sensors, drones. I laughed. Technology rots faster than steel in that humidity. The jungle absorbs everything eventually. Guards know this. Prisoners learn it. Outsiders ignore it. No system defeats an environment it doesn't respect. Ban Cow worked because it aligned with reality instead of fighting it. Escape attempts will continue. Some will succeed briefly. Most will fail quietly. The jungle will erase evidence. And the prison will continue, unnamed, watching. The most dangerous prisons aren't the ones with the highest walls. They're the ones where escape becomes irrelevant. Ban Cow didn't trap bodies. It trapped certainty. Prisoners could leave the compound, but they couldn't leave the consequences. Guards didn't need to chase. They needed to wait. The jungle finished what impatience started. Every escape story ended the same way, with understanding arriving too late. Those who survived returned changed. Those who didn't vanished. Ban Cow didn't need myths. It produced them naturally. People ask if anyone ever truly escaped. I tell them the truth is complicated. A few men crossed the perimeter and lived long enough to be counted as free. None escaped unchanged. The jungle marked them permanently. Scars, illness, madness, knowledge. Freedom extracted payment up front. Guards understood that better than prisoners. That's why we didn't celebrate recaptures. Survival wasn't victory. It was negotiation. Ban Cow wasn't about punishment. It was about exposure to nature, to fear, to limits people pretended didn't exist. Inside Ban Cow, the jungle wasn't scenery. It was curriculum. Inmates learned what hunger really meant. Guards learned humility. Everyone learned patience. Escape stories spread not because they inspired hope, but because they clarified reality. The jungle didn't care about intent, only competence. Men who respected it survived longer, whether they wore uniforms or chains. That equality was unsettling. It stripped identity down to awareness. Ban Cow didn't reform criminals. It revealed people. If you ever find a prison on a map, it won't look impressive. A dot in green, a footnote. But maps lie. They simplify. Ban Cow existed in layers. Physical, psychological, environmental. Escape was an event. It was a process measured in weeks, months, years. Most attempts failed before they began, inside the mind. Guards understood that. Our job wasn't enforcement. It was demonstration. Every story reinforced the same message. Leaving was possible. Surviving was not guaranteed. When inmates whispered plans, guards listened without reacting. Intervention too early created confidence. Intervention too late created legends. Timing mattered. That balance defined guard culture. We weren't heroes. We were caretakers of inevitability. The jungle ensured the outcome. We ensured the lesson was remembered. New inmates arrived defiant. Old inmates were quiet. Silence wasn't submission. It was understanding. Ban cow didn't break man. It taught them where breaking points actually were. I still dream of the silence before escape attempts. That unnatural pause. Even now, when forests go quiet, my body reacts. The jungle trains you long after you leave. Ban cow followed me into civilian life. Not as trauma, but as clarity. Comfort is fragile. Control is temporary. Environments shape outcomes more than intentions. Prisoners learn it painfully. Guards learned it professionally. Outsiders never learned it at all. Today, stories about ban cow circulate online. Exaggerated, romanticized, incorrect. They missed the point. The danger wasn't violence. It was patience. The prison waited. The jungle waited longer. Escape stories weren't about courage. They were about miscalculation. Guard culture wasn't cruelty. It was respect for forces larger than policy. Ban cow survived because it didn't pretend to dominate nature. It cooperated with it. If you ask former inmates what terrified them most, they won't mention guards. They'll mention directionlessness. Standing under a canopy where north disappears. Where every path looks correct and wrong simultaneously. That disorientation broke more men than chains. Guards understood orientation was power. That's why we never pointed outward when giving instructions. The jungle erased certainty. We preserved it just enough to function. Ban cow remains active, despite rumors. Names change. Administrations rotate. The jungle doesn't. Guards still train differently there. Inmates still arrive believing walls are the challenge. Escape attempts still begin with confidence and end with understanding. The prison doesn't need headlines. It doesn't need recognition. Its reputation travels quietly, carried by men who learned its lesson the hard way. The most dangerous prison in Southeast Asia isn't dangerous because it kills. It's dangerous because it doesn't have to. It offers opportunity and lets reality decide. Escape is allowed. Survival is optional. Guard culture reflects that truth. Calm, patient, unyielding. Ban cow doesn't chase. It waits. And the jungle never misses forever. That's the insider story they don't tell you. Not because it's secret, but because it's uncomfortable. Ban cow proves that control doesn't come from force alone. It comes from understanding your environment better than anyone else. In the end, the prison isn't the walls. It's the silence before dawn. The jungle beyond the fence. And the knowledge that leaving is easy. But belonging to that world, even briefly, costs more than most people are willing to pay.